Wednesday night edition of the Anaheim Calling podcast. We've got a fun game to talk about tonight. The Ducks winning a return home game after their Eastern Conference road trip, winning this one 5-2 against the Buffalo Sabres in a game that really had a little bit of everything. You know, it had a lot of penalties, a lot of different scraps after the whistle, a lot of goals, a lot of power plays, just a lot of everything. Jake, have you caught your breath after this one?
Whew, I think I've settled down a little bit. I was a little bit jumpy, a little bit excited. That was a game. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
I think that there are probably, as we'll get into it more, there may be other games where you can say the Ducks had better performances, but if you're looking from a pure entertainment standpoint, before even looking at any of the numbers, this is what you want out of a hockey game. I mean, we all follow we all follow sports because they're entertainment at the end of the day. Yes, you want to see the Ducks win. Yes, they're your team and you want to see them win in any way possible. But at the end of the day, this is entertainment. It's supposed to be fun. You're supposed to enjoy it. This was very enjoyable. And
yeah, that seems consistent for someone who follows pro wrestling as you do.
Hey, it's entertaining. What can I say? I'm entertained by it.
I had to throw that in there.
No qualms. As we had a discussion about wrestling for like 5 minutes before we went live.
I mean, contrary to what people may think listening to this podcast, we don't really watch it for perfect statistics or perfect play. We watch these games because we like watching hockey, and we get fired up just like the next guy, the next gal, when it comes to, back and forth games like this one was. So let's just jump right into it. In terms of lineup changes before this game, one thing that immediately stood out, Devon Shore once again set aside from the lineup, not really in favor of Derek Grant, but we talked about this after last game or in our last podcast, that I was starting to wonder, is Derek Grant just bulletproof in this lineup, especially because his last couple of games have not been so good. And it would appear that that's the case, that even after the Ducks struggled a little bit at the end of their road trip, he remained in the lineup, while Devon Shore, who has played quite well this season, I mean, better, I think, than most people expected, remaining in the lineup. So what did you make of that?
I think it's Dallas Eakins kind of saying what we said. I mean, we talked about the Boston game, and basically we're saying that was a really good performance from the team, and outside of just being able to finish their chances, that was one of the best performances. And I believe there was a quote from Eakins that was said by the broadcast crew that Dallas basically said that was their best performance of the season against the Bruins. So it might be a situation where he saw the best performance from the team and wanted to keep that lineup together, and that's why that happened, as compared to wanting, as much as we've said, it seems like he's willing to shake it up when needed, but it seems like he wanted to keep the group together that played well.
Yeah, one thing that I did find interesting in tonight's game is that it looked as though Del Zotto, paired with Fowler once again, was on the right side. So Fowler returning to his natural left side. He seemed to play most of the night on the left side.
Say that one more time. Sorry.
Wow. Thanks for
I'm monitoring the chat. I'm monitoring the chat.
I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, I know.
It looked as though Del Zotto was on his off wing. So Del Zotto and Fowler paired together once again, and Fowler returning to his natural left side.
I actually didn't notice that. So
great. So you're just out to lunch.
I was
great.
I was just enjoying the game. I was
enjoying
having
the game.
entertainment.
Maybe a cold beverage?
No, I did not.
A cold one?
I did not tonight. But
okay.
That would be interesting to me, honestly, though. I kind of have this weird recollection or weird memory of last season that happening, though, when they acquired Del Zotto. Del Zotto played the right side and Fowler played the left. So maybe it's just them doing that again. I mean, you also have Del Zotto playing the right-hand side when he's paired with Larson, so it's not as if Michael Del Zotto can't play the right-hand side. He's shown that they'll use him in that same situation. So, I don't know. It maybe that's that type of scenario. I don't know if I'm going to read too much into it in the sense of if if Gooley comes back, that means that him and Fowler won't be reunited, and Fowler won't
They
go on the
will
right
be.
hand side.
I would be shocked if they aren't.
Yeah,
if they aren't
I think
reunited.
this was just a bit of experimentation because I think the Fowler-Del Zotto pairing left a little bit to be desired in the last couple games. So I think it was the little bit of tinkering that would happen was basically that.
Yeah, but what was interesting going into tonight's game was the all kid line. So Jones, Steele, and Terry reunited from maybe their San Diego Gulls days. I don't know if they actually ever all played, the three of them together in San Diego, but that was a line that actually performed quite well tonight, much to maybe our surprise, because much of our assumption going into the season was that we would rarely see the younger players, the kids. I feel weird calling them the kids for some reason because I'm not that much older than they are. We would not see them really put together or see that many of them in the lineup at once, but Dallas Eakins just going full bore and putting Jones, Steele, and Terry on the same line, and Comtois on the first line on one of the top lines with Getzlaf and Kasha.
Yeah, and we saw, I don't think we had this line fully, the Steele, Terry, Jones line last game. Maybe there was a little bit of it with some line shifting throughout the Bruins game, but I believe Richie was on that line to start. So I think this line may have been used a little bit last year, but I'm not completely positive on that. But that line was really good on the night. You look at shot attempts, the 8 shot attempts, only 4 against. But that doesn't really tell the story because it felt like anytime they were on ice, maybe in the first period, they weren't that dangerous. But I felt like as the game went on, they really grew into the game and really became very dangerous. And you look at things like expected goal totals. They were at 0.47 expected goals in the night, only 0.04 against. So really no good chances against. I mean, only one, let me see real quick. No scoring chances against at all. No high danger chances against at all. 6 scoring chances for, 5 high danger chances for. So they were all over the place. 1 rush attempt for. And
hey Jake, something I want to point out here for you. Dallas Eakins did not break up his forward lines tonight at all.
He did not.
And the Ducks played pretty well and won. What do you make of that?
What are you trying to say there? What are you trying to say there?
What do you make of that? I don't know. Just your thoughts.
What are you trying to say there? No.
So for those who missed it, a couple of pods ago, we had a bit of a philosophical debate on Dallas Eakins constantly shifting his lines around. And you could argue that tonight there was maybe, by your logic, a reason to do that because the top 2 lines kind of struggled at 5-on-5, getting outshot and outchanced, and yet kept them together. And look what ended up happening. I don't know. Correlation equals causation.
Sure. No, I think part of it is that they, at the end of the first period, those lines started working well. And so he stuck it out with them. But getting back to the Jones, Steele, Terry line, because this line was loads of fun throughout the game. And as we get more into the game, we'll probably talk about it a bit more. But Troy Terry's very good. That hashtag needs to get going. Everyone, if you're listening to this,
now that it has some basis in truth,
hashtag Terry is very good.
Let's get into the recap here, though. I mean, there's definitely there's a lot of goals to go over, so we should get into it here. The game did not really start out all that pretty for the Ducks. I thought that they looked really out of sync early on in the first period. Just really couldn't sustain offense, couldn't really keep up, it seemed, with the speed of the Buffalo Sabres. Notably, at just about halfway through the first period, Josh Manson turning it over at the Buffalo blue line, and Jack Eichel just kind of sidestepping him, chipping it around, and then bullying his way into the Ducks zone and shielding the puck, fending off Josh Manson and just walking it in. No opposition, really, walking it in and then cutting over to his forehand, backhand to forehand, left to right, and really no chance for John Gibson there. Highlight reel goal, to be sure, from Jack Eichel, and it is Jack Eichel. He's one of the best players in the NHL right now, so you don't want to overlook that aspect, but Josh Manson not looking particularly brilliant on that play.
Yeah, I mean, the turnover at the offensive blue line, not good to start. The ability to get back and cover, also not great. And then the third thing is, if Jack Eichel's in front of you like that, at a certain point, you just got to realize, take the penalty.
Just trip him.
Just trip him. Hook him. Do something to put him off of his game, because you letting him just go by you like that with the intention of not taking a penalty and trying to rely upon John Gibson, it's not exactly the best idea when it's a guy like Jack Eichel coming down there. Protect John Gibson a little bit better, even if it means giving up a power play. Because worst case scenario, they score. Best case scenario, your teammates pick you up and kill it off. So probably not the best play. Zenez also brings up that Lindholm also actually just watched him go by as well on that play.
Yeah.
So
yeah, although Lindholm does have to worry about the other guys on the ice. So
yeah, he has to worry about the back post pass there, and so not a good look from Manson. And honestly, the beginning of that period was kind of an adventure for that pairing. Lindholm had a couple kind of rough turnovers that led to chances against. Manson also didn't look great. It kind of feels like not having Brendan Gooley has kind of messed up all the D pairs a little bit and the structure of everything going forward a little. I don't know if you agree or disagree with that.
I mean, I don't know about the overall structure. I just think that particularly Fowler and Delzato just haven't been that great together, and it's caused some maybe Manson and Lindholm having to take on a greater workload.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I'm not really sure how to characterize that, but it is having an effect. I just don't really know how to pin it down.
Yep.
And Anaheim struggles would continue. So, just about little under 10 minutes later, Ducks take a penalty, and that was another theme of the night. A lot of penalties, and on the penalty kill, Ducks just kind of caught puck watching. Really all converging on the puck down low. You have four guys just all staring at the puck. Nick Ritchie just completely forgetting Victor Olofsson, who has had such a torrid start to the season. Not really a guy that you want to leave just wide open at the goal mouth. He's able to collect a really nice savvy pass from Sam Reinhart, and just wires it past John Gibson, who has absolutely no chance on that play. That would make it 2-0 Buffalo. And at that point, it just didn't really feel all that rosy for Anaheim, but they started showing signs of life towards the end of the first period, bringing a little more pace. I mean, at one point, they were getting outshot to a degree that it almost felt like a throwback to last season. And that's certainly not, a sentence you want to hear.
Yeah.
And they quickly atoned for that. Towards the end of the first period, Ducks just finding ways to control the puck down low. A really nice play from Rickard Rakell to control it, gets it back to the point. Josh Manson shoots it on net, and Adam Henrique is able to deflect it past Linus Ullmark. So
we should
Ducks kind of making it respectable at the end that first period.
Yeah, and we should also make mention that the Ducks had a chance that they ended up putting in the back of the net, but it was called back due to Max Jones being offside. Yeah. That play I do want to highlight really quickly, simply because I thought that was a really nice play, and just because it was offside, it doesn't mean, it technically, I guess, didn't happen, but I still think that that's the exact type of play that this Ducks team is capable of, and what's going to be important moving forward, because it was a quick, clean breakout to the neutral zone with a pass, and then there was a pass from Steele to Terry. Terry is able to kind of make a pass through a guy to find Larson in space. Larson is able to get into the zone, fires it low and hard into the far side pad of Ullmark, and Max Jones driving the crease and is able to put it in. Now, sadly, Max Jones wasn't able to hold up enough to stay onside. He was offside. It's the right call. The review was the right decision. The linesman probably should have caught that in real time, but that's the exact type of quick turnaround breakout play that the Ducks are going to want to be looking forward to get some quick strike offense moving forward, and potentially also sustain it if they're not able to score and just keep it in the zone. But that's how you're able to attack and get into the zone and get a chance right away. So I did want to highlight that play slightly. But yeah, the Henrique goal comes right out on the heels of that also. So it was good from the Ducks to not be deflated from that goal being taken off the board and get one right back, which was nice. It definitely was against the run of play. I think shots at one point, what were they, 15-7, something like that?
Yeah, it was bad.
It was bad.
I think it was worse than that, yeah.
And then I think the Ducks at a certain point started to settle into the game, and they ended up getting that goal. And there's actually a pretty big spike in terms of shot attempts right around It was basically right after the Buffalo second goal on the power play. The Ducks really started to generate all the chance or get all the shots, get a fair amount of the chances also in that process. So that goal from Henrique, you could maybe look at it and say the Sabres probably should have had some more goals in that period. But that Henrique goal came on the heels of the Ducks generating a fair amount of chances. So they probably deserved that goal.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Ducks did pick up a couple power plays, in that period. One thing that I found really interesting is that you saw Michael Delzato on the power play at a time where the Ducks are trying to come back in the game, which seems a little odd.
Well, I think that it's him or Lindholm. I know you're going to say don't use a defenseman. But
no, just don't use a defenseman who's not good on the power play. It's not that I'm against defensemen.
No, I know, but there is a inherent risk.
Just keep Fowler out there. Just keep him out there.
True, and we'll get into it. They did do that at some point in this game.
I just think that we can either choose. Oftentimes when you're evaluating situations, you have a choice. You can either look at it pragmatically and try to understand why that decision was made with the available options. And I think that that's a totally defensible way to look at it. And I don't mean to overlook that because it's important to note. But sometimes you have to kind of draw a line in the sand a little bit philosophically. And for me, with power plays, for whatever reason, I'm just a stickler about this kind of stuff. That's the line I'm choosing to draw, is that you have to put players out there who are going to help you score, because that's the entire point of a power play. And if that player is not really suited for that, then he shouldn't be out there. And again, I understand all the limitations. I understand why coaches do it. And I'm not faulting them for it because that's kind of the accepted methodology. But those are just my thoughts. Now, closing out the first period here, another thing that I wanted to mention, Troy Terry, I mean, we're going to get into this more later on, but he had some moments in this first period, just some real nice playmaking in the neutral zone to enter the offensive zone. And then in the dying seconds of the first, had a really nice thread the needle type pass to Hampus Lindholm, who almost buried it, with the time expiring on the clock. So again, we're going to get into it more here, but Troy Terry had, in my opinion, a night to remember, even though he didn't actually score a goal and I don't think even picked up a point. I think he was one of Anaheim's best players tonight without picking up any points.
I think he was the most dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he was the most dangerous, but because I think Rakell and Silfverberg, I mean, they did get 2 2-on-1s on the penalty kill at one point.
That is true. Fair.
I think by virtue of going up 2-on-1, you're pretty dangerous. No, but your point is well taken. I do think that he was up there. He was definitely up there. And then just kind of transitioning over here to the second period quickly before we get into our second break, the Ducks would pick right back up where they left off at the at the end of the first period, not even a minute into the second. Jakob Silfverberg collects a puck out of the corner, wins a battle, actually makes a really difficult play, tipping a puck, I think potentially a rimmed puck by the defenseman out of the air, and then just knocks it down, gets it over to Rickard Rakell in the slot, who then is able to finish off a real nice chance. Really no hope for Ullmark, the Buffalo goaltender. And this is something that I've talked a lot about this season, that we've both talked a lot about, but Rickard Rakell and Jakob Silfverberg they just seem like peas in a pod.
It's funny because for as much chemistry as they have, they really haven't played that much together.
They've never played together.
They played together a little bit at the end of last year, but it's almost as if they've been playing together for years. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's so much fun to watch when they're both out on the ice and their ability to find one another. I mean, their overall numbers in this game weren't that great, but their ability to find each other and their ability to be able to work with one another, and their interchange in the neutral zone when they enter the zone in the corner, it's almost as if they know exactly where each other's gonna be, and it's just so much fun, and I'm so excited to see kind of where they go. I'm curious. We've talked about this a little bit when we talked about Isaac Lundestrom between them. Do you think if they got a legit playmaker between them, as compared to more of a trigger man than Adam Henrique.
What are you saying about Adam Henrique?
I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything.
What are you saying about Adam Henrique?
I'm not saying anything. No, just Adam Henrique is more of a trigger man. He's not exactly a playmaker, and I don't think that's exactly breaking news to anyone out there. But I think that if they got a playmaker, just throwing it out there, Trevor Zegras between them. That was a little bit of a jab at you right there. If Zegras plays at the end of the year, like I claimed, but no, but
okay.
if they actually got like a playmaker, if Sam Steele plays like he has this tonight for the rest of the season and ends up going between them, will that kind of benefit them more? Maybe a Ryan Getzlaf even between them. I'm just really curious. What would happen if those changes were made.
I definitely have some thoughts about that. Andy will hear them on the other side of our first break. Okay, back from the first intermission here. So where we left off on before we went into the break, talking about who should potentially center Rakell and Silfverberg. And I love how we're just overlooking Adam Henrique, who, by the way, scored a goal tonight. Scored 2 goals tonight.
Not overlooking, but just assessing the play and seeing if there might be a better fit.
Well, I think that Henrique might be better suited, because if you can get because it seems like Rakell and Silfverberg can do really well independent of who's their center.
True. We've talked about it.
And so with Henrique, you then maybe want to move him around a little bit. One guy, just looking at the existing options, who I would be curious to see between them would be Sam Steele, which is kind of a bummer because that kid line was so good tonight. But Sam Steele, he's not played very much this season, but he, just like Terry, I think has really developed physically. He looks a lot quicker out there. He looks stronger in the corners. And although I don't see a lot of high-end skill there necessarily, in terms of just elite finishing and playmaking, he is just crafty out there. I think that's the word that comes to mind. Is he's just very he's very capable. And I do think that I don't know if Ducks fans are going to love hearing this, but he actually reminds me a bit of Max Domi, where Max Domi isn't necessarily an elite playmaker, but, maybe best in a really good year, in their primes, a guy like that gets 60 to 70 points. I could see Sam Steele developing into that kind of player, just a slippery playmaking center. And between two guys like Rakell and Silfverberg, who are just so steady, I think maybe a guy who's a little more dynamic, like Sam Steele, it could just be interesting. But again, this is not to take away anything from Adam Henrique, who had a very good game, who has been playing very well. I caught a little flack on Twitter last game, because of some of my Henrique rhetoric in the past, thanks to Nick Pappas.
Yep, good old Nick Pappas calling you out.
Just coming at me.
Savage.
It's fine. Hey, just bring it on. I'm here for it. Ratioed.
Just waiting for Nick to tweet you again.
But let's move on here with our second period recap. Now, let's see here. Maybe the highlight of the game, the highlight of the season for me. You know what I'm about to get to. The Ducks power play finally joining the 21st century. This was a watershed moment for the Ducks power play, something that I never thought I'd see coming. Ryan Getzlaf, and so it's funny because the way that this goal developed. So at this point, the game is tied 2-2, halfway through the second period. Getzlaf was actually on the right side, so on the right face-off circle where we typically see Troy Terry. And just before even this goal happened, I thought, wow, he looks more dangerous in that spot, because even though he's not as much of a shooter as Terry is, and there's not as much of a threat for that, Ryan Getzlaf's one of the all-time great playmakers. And so it would stand to reason that having a guy like that closer to the net would probably accentuate that gift of his, of playmaking ability. Having him all the way out of the point, although it makes sense, just because he's back there, he sees the ice well, blah, blah, blah. I do think that having him closer to the net, it just makes sense. He's more dangerous there, just inherently. And so right before this goal even happened, Getzlaf from the right circle actually threaded a really nice pass across the middle of the ice over to Sam Steele. And Sam Steele nearly put this one away, just couldn't get enough wood on it or enough fiberglass, whatever these sticks are made out of these days.
Carbon fiber.
And so the Ducks would go back to work. And this time, Steele and Getzlaf actually switched sides. So Getzlaf went to the left side, which I thought was interesting because we talk a lot about how the great power plays, guys are really set in their spot, which is true, but there's also a bit of adaptability there. And so Getzlaf and Steele setting up in the opposite face-off circles and then just basically playing catch. I mean, just two consecutive passes right across what we call the Royal Road. So that kind of middle area. I tweeted a screenshot of this from the broadcast that you should check out. But basically that middle lane is where all the goodness happens on the power play. That's where all the most dangerous passes go through. And they were able to connect twice on that. And so Getzlaf looks off a defender, creates that lane, gets it to Steele. Steele just very intelligently gets it back to Getzlaf, who just fires it home. You know, he's not known for having a great one-timer, but he's a big, strong guy. Yeah. He's real smart about finding open spaces. And, hey, it worked. Who would have thought? And that would put the Ducks up 3-2.
It's funny because this exact type of thing happened in the preseason with him and Terry also. If you remember against the Kings where Getzlaf fed Terry with a cross-ice pass. Terry almost instantly threw it back at him and he hit it with the one-timer. And I think it was Jack Campbell, or I forgot who it was for the Kings, but ended up making an insane save. And it
wasn't quite as pretty, but
it was very similar. It wasn't as in tight on the goal though. Also, the other thing of note,
I like the idea of Getzlaf rotating around. Though, just kind of praying around.
The other interesting thing is this was the second unit. If the first unit tonight was, I believe it was Nick Ritchie in front of the net. It was Troy Terry, Rickard, Rakell, and Jakob Silfverberg and Cam Fowler at the point.
And they look good.
They looked really good. The interesting thing on that second unit was, up until that power play in the game, the Ducks had Michael Del Zotto on the point with Getzlaf, Steele. I believe Kasha was also on that along with Jones. Let me check real quick.
No, Fowler was out there.
No.
It was Fowler, Kasha, Getzlaf, Steele, and Comtois.
Earlier in the game, it was Del Zotto out there, though, was my point.
Yeah.
This goal, they left Fowler out there, though.
Yeah.
They kept Fowler out there with both units.
Who would have thought? That leaving Cam Fowler out there would be better than Michael Del Zotto.
Yeah, so it was Comtois, not Jones, out there. And so Fowler stayed out there, and I thought that legitimately that popped into my head when it happened because Fowler was able to kind of give the puck to Getzlaf, and he drew a couple of defenders to him when he did that, and that led to the cross-ice pass from Getzlaf to Steele and then Steele back. And if that was Del Zotto, I don't know if that same play happened. So, I mean, maybe Fowler just needs to play all 2 minutes of the power play.
Yeah, and they're not the most taxing minutes. I mean, you do have to win some battles here and there to keep the puck from coming out of the opponent's zone, but they're not the most taxing minutes. And hey, if nothing else, that gives Manson and Lindholm some time to rest. I mean, it just makes so much sense. And it's not always going to be this pretty, and it does conflict a little bit with, for example, Rickard Rakell being in that left circle. But I do think that the Ducks need to stick. And again, I'm kind of basing a lot of this on one play, but you see how well it can work. It's just such a higher percentage play to do it this way than to have. I mean, basically all of Getzlaf's abilities to me are just negated when he's all the way out at the point. He's a forward. In the normal run of play, he's not all the way out the point. That's not where he's made his money. So it just doesn't make sense why he would be out there to begin with.
Yeah.
Anyway, rant over. But that was a really nice play, and maybe the Ducks will continue to do that. Who knows? Now, after that, some helter-skelter action. Carter Rowney just leveling Victor Olofsson and catching a roughing penalty. Not a great hit.
No,
I mean, some people saying that Olofsson should have prepared himself, but he has no obligation to do that when the puck is in the air and he's trying to corral it. And Rowney basically came in and decked him before he caught the puck. You can't really. It's like hitting it's like shooting at a defenseless combatant. You just can't really do it.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think they called it boarding, which was the right call. And
yeah, boarding, roughing. I mean,
it was
you kind of
boarding
take your
because
pick.
he hit him in basically the vulnerable spot, a couple feet away from the boards, and so you're hitting him he's basically an unprotected. He's kind of, I think the way it's worded in the rule book is he's unprotected or he's in a vulnerable state, and Rowney kind of comes in and just hits him clean into a very dangerous hit into the board. So I don't know if this is a real. On first glance, I thought it was really, really bad. On second
No,
glance, it's
a
just
penalty.
It's a penalty. Lewis is asking in our Twitch chat, will we see a suspension? It's not a suspension. I don't think there's a suspension at all.
No.
It's a penalty, though. They got the call right there.
So my theory on this, without having like a narrow interpretation of the rule book or having it in front of me, is that this would have still been a penalty, for example, in open ice. Because if the puck is in the air and the guy doesn't have it yet and he's reaching up and you just level him before he has it, he like a legal play.
He touched the puck though before.
It was very borderline. If that's the way you're looking at it, then that's the most narrow definition possible. Like the puck had literally just made physical contact with his glove as he got destroyed. So I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know if I'm willing to go there, but yeah, it was a penalty. People didn't think it was, and it was. So not much more to say there. Now, shortly thereafter, the Ducks would extend their lead, and this one coming off of a really nice pass by Max Comtois, who has been a little more quiet to start this season. You know, I mean, it's kind of hard to replicate the start that he had last year, as you'll recall, scoring on his first shot in the NHL in his first game. You know, it's kind of hard to beat that. I thought that tonight was probably his best game so far this season. And this assist was certainly a part of that evaluation. A really nice zone entry by Henrique, who then dishes it off to Max Comtois, who then just kind of threads the needle over to Henrique. And Henrique doesn't really have any time or space to get this shot off. He's being hounded by a defender who I believe that's Rasmus Dahlin. And he basically just whacks it out of the air and into the Buffalo net. And that's a tough play, a tough save to make as well for the goaltender, Ullmark. Some people said that, you know, the Ducks were a little fortunate that they were playing Linus Ullmark. And I don't really buy that because the goals that he allowed were, I mean, they were pretty high-quality looks.
And he had some really good saves. I mean, there was the one look on the power play in the first period where Terry gets it right in front and tries to go 5-hole, and Ullmark keeps the paddle down. And there's a couple other really great saves that he makes in this game. And so I don't know if Carter Hutton's that much better than the performance Linus Ullmark gave tonight. So I don't know if I would claim that the Ducks were fortunate to face Linus Ullmark in that sense. But on Comtois, I thought he was more noticeable tonight in a good way. I think he's been a little bit subject to kind of a similar type of thing. He's
been sus?
Yeah.
You try to appeal to the kid, talk like the kids there?
Oh, yeah. No, he was subject to kind of, I don't know. It was similar to what I thought about Max Jones, where he kind of looked like he was skating hard and trying hard, but wasn't really effective in anything he was doing. He wasn't really efficient with his skating stride. This is kind of my view, and I feel like I've heard Gus Cazzaro say this, where a lot of times people think guys are good skaters or fast skaters because it looks like they're skating hard. But at the end of the day, they look like that, but they're not actually that fast. Guys that are actually fast have very seamless strides, like a Cam Fowler, for instance. You don't ever think that Cam Fowler is skating hard because it's just so fluid. And so I think that kind of Max Jones got into the situation where, and same thing with Max Comtois, where they kind of looked like they were trying to do too much. And I think Comtois tonight, and Jones also, I think both of them tonight found themselves kind of being a bit more quiet with their game in the good way. They were finding themselves in good spots, not really taking themselves out of the play to do too much. And I think that's what Comtois did so well tonight. And he really helped out that line for a fair amount with Getzlaf and Kasha. I think Kasha may have had his worst game this season so far, just from a noticeable standpoint.
Yeah, well, the thing with Kasha is he's kind of the opposite of that spectrum, where, I mean, I think his brand, his utility is that he's noticeable out there. He's always involved. And there's a quote out there that I'm kind of forgetting the wording on. It's from a famous person. It's "Don't mistake activity for like effectiveness, basically.
Yeah, and that's
And
what I'm. Yeah,
that can be true. It's not always true, but it can be true. And I think with Kasha tonight, I don't know. But getting back to Jones, though, I thought he had a really good game tonight, actually. Just kind of going off on that tangent a little bit here. He scored a goal that was called back, but he also had some chances. I mean, he had one really nice scoring chance, I believe, in the third period, putting a move on the defender and then cutting to his backhand. I think that when he's a little less focused on the extracurriculars and a
yeah,
little more on, just kind of bringing his skill set, then he's an effective player.
yeah.
Um, Now, getting over into the third period recap here. So, at this point, the last goal that the Ducks would get would be an empty netter by Silfverberg. But in that period, though, there's a lot of positive to take away. First off, as we've noted, this season, the Ducks didn't really go into a full-on defensive shell. They were not even outchanced in that period. The scoring chances were even at 5-on-5, which is not something that you typically see when a team is trying to come back or when a team is defending a lead. Granted, there were a lot of penalties and there were a lot of power plays, not a whole lot of 5-on-5 time to really evaluate. But that being said, there are some notable moments to me. I mean, Troy Terry had a shift where he basically won a battle down low. The puck was coming back out. He won the battle again, lifting a stick, controlling the puck, and then brought it back in and then kept the play alive for another good 30 seconds. There were so many different moments in the first go around where he could have lost the puck and he just kept fighting back, kept maintaining possession of the
Yeah.
puck. And then once the puck came back out, he just used that speed of his to bring it back in and create another opportunity and actually looped around the net and got a shot on goal. And it almost reminded me of his first game as a Duck in Vancouver, where he had a similar play, just kind of looping around, because if you'll recall, when Troy Terry first came up to the Ducks, he played with a lot more freedom. He seemed really kind of unimpeded in his play, just kind of out there to play his game, not overthinking it. And what we saw from him at the beginning of last year was not that. He seemed a little bit in his own head. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. But in this game and in this season so far, not only does he look faster, does he look stronger, and that's why plays like these are more possible than maybe they were in the past. But he also just seems more confident to play his game. He's not looking to make a safe play. He's out there looking for options, scanning the ice, getting shots on net. And that shift, to me, kind of summed all of the good that we've seen from him this season, all the improvement that we've seen. And yeah, I'm attributing a little bit of this to confidence, and a lot of it is probably just the maturation of a player, not so much that I don't think pro athletes are ever really lacking in confidence, but I think that now he's just more emboldened to make plays, more emboldened to go out there and actually attack as opposed to not make a mistake. And hey, he looked good on that play. And like we were talking about earlier, this was one of his best performances this season. And although he might not have been the most dangerous player out there, didn't score, didn't register a point, he was absolutely noticeable. And I've been joking about this in our chat for our website, but I don't think that, I mean, Troy Terry and Andre Kasha are much different players, but I think it's inarguable that Terry has had a much better start than Kasha so far.
Yeah, and I think so. The shift you're talking about was just a great shift overall by that line. And also, I think the best shift Troy Terry's had in a Duck sweater in the NHL, where he just took over the game and really kind of got on the puck. I mean, Sam Steele and Max Jones also really helped out. They were really hard on the puck to keep it in the zone. But anytime the puck ended up on Terry's stick, it's almost as if you knew something was going to happen. And that is what is so exciting, is when you have a guy and the puck gets on his stick, you just expect something. And that's just what's so much fun about the situation. He had that one chance where he comes around the puck, kind of curls into the slot and tries to go high short side, and Olmark just makes a really good save. And so it's just kind of everything that I've wanted to see and why I was so excited to see this player come up with the Ducks, because he kind of represented a very different style of hockey than the way the Ducks had been playing for years. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've been so high on him, is that if he panned out the way I thought he would, that would mean that we would be having a player playing something different, providing that excitement, kind of giving me that type of situation that I want to see. And so that's kind of why I've been so high and why this game and that shift made me so excited for what's to come.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's not to overlook the contribution of the other two on that line. Like we talked about, Max Jones had a good game tonight, and Sam Steele also brought a lot to the table. So we're going to jump into our final break here. On the other side, we are going to finish up on our game recap, and we're going to get into some listener questions. Okay, back from the final timeout here. So just wrapping up a little bit on some thoughts from tonight's game. I did want to follow up on what we were talking about with that kid line. Sam Steele, I mean, again, the sample size is exceedingly small, but I think that him and Terry, they play similar styles, although there are much different players where Terry is more of a shooter. You know, he's a bigger guy. Steele is kind of that plucky, smaller forward who just seems to always find those right spots in the ice, and he's shifty. He's got a lot of foot speed, and I think that him and Terry, they just work well together. And right now, in the role that they're in on a third line that can maybe get not the softer matchups, but just not be relied upon to provide that offense, to do the heavy lifting, it actually kind of makes sense to have them together in that role. And I think it would make sense for Dallas Eakins. I mean, I definitely, there's no way to know with Dallas Eakins, but I would suspect he would keep them together after this game and see what more they can offer. Maybe Jones doesn't remain on this line, but I think at the very least, Steele and Terry are going to remain together. And I think it makes sense. You have, with Getzlaf, Kasha, you have a veteran, I don't know if we can call Kasha a veteran yet, but he is an established player. Obviously, Getzlaf is a veteran, and Courtois is a younger player, but that's more of an established line. And then Rakell, Henrique, Silfverberg is all veterans. To me, that's the Ducks' top line right now. And then Jones, Steele, Terry is kind of like playing with house money. You put those guys out there, and you just kind of see what they can do, and especially when those expectations are lowered a little bit. And I think that it also sets up Nick Ritchie really nicely to thrive in a fourth line role, granted, if he doesn't take penalties. But I guess what are some of your final thoughts and takeaways of tonight's game?
Final thoughts and takeaways. First thing, I do want to mention this. There were some people in the Twitch chat mentioning this, and I think it's something that's interesting. So first thing, the Ducks really didn't turtle at all tonight. If you look at the shot attempt battle, it was pretty even down the stretch.
That's the opposite.
Yeah. And so it's, which is very exciting. But there's someone, I guess, pointing out that they think the Ducks are utilizing a trap-based system. I don't buy that at all.
Well,
do you think?
I think that the term trap is it's a very general term. People think back to the New Jersey Devils, who famously, the early 2000s, with Martin Brodeur, Scott Niedermayer, those guys. And so that's what people think of. But if you watch teams around the NHL and how they forecheck, most teams have a trap. And for those who can't see who are listening, I'm throwing up some air quotes here. A lot of teams do employ trap elements to their game.
Yeah.
You're shifting, you're trying to steer the other team's breakout into the kind of outside corridors. You're really not allowing them to make plays in the middle. That's kind of every team nowadays. So although, yes, I wouldn't agree that the Ducks are a trap team. Sure, you could say that they use trap elements, but I would also add that most teams do.
Yeah, and by trap, I mean the most recent one that comes to mind is when the Tampa Bay Lightning employed that 1-3-1 trap.
The 1-3-1
under Guy Boucher, which is one forechecker, three guys in the neutral zone clogging it up, one defenseman back to be able to get the dump in, basically.
Yeah. Well, it's a very passive forecheck.
Yeah, and
basically you're just waiting for the other team to come to you, and that is a very boring style.
And I don't think that this Ducks team is employing anything like that, simply because they're in on the forecheck. They're trying to apply pressure. For any soccer fans out there, I more equate what the Ducks are doing to full press. for a team that's going all out, trying to really pressure the ball, pressure the puck, and really get a turnover. And that's more so, I think, what the Ducks are trying to do, and then hit in transition off of that turnover. And so I thought that was mentioning. Overall thoughts on this game. This was probably the most entertaining game of the season. I don't think
No, it was.
I don't
No
think
need for the probably.
the Sharks game was pretty entertaining because they dominated, but this overall back and forth, it was the most entertaining game of the season. In terms of the way that they played, I would not put
we should probably touch on that a little bit.
I don't think this was the best game that they've played of late.
No.
I think part of it is due to the fact that they took a lot of penalties, first off, and the penalty kill came up big for them. I mean, they had, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 penalty kills against, and they only allowed one goal against for one of the most potent power plays in the league. That's a pretty good night of penalty killing, but some really undisciplined play there. Nick Ritchie taking a really bad penalty again, and just the refs were really calling this game tight, and the Ducks just kind of needed to understand that and start kind of keeping their sticks low, not going in with slashes. There was a call on Kasha that was kind of borderline hook or slash, but don't even put yourself.
That wasn't a penalty.
Yeah, but don't put yourself in that situation if everything's getting called, and it went both ways.
It's a penalty that the refs allow all the time.
Yeah,
and that's why guys do it. So I understand why Kasha would be frustrated there, but to your point, it is a penalty by definition.
Yeah.
But yeah, you touched on the penalty kill, and hey, we've made a theme of face-offs this season on the podcast, so we might as well just keep it going here. And this is maybe a first in Anaheim calling podcasting history. Derek Grant tonight on the penalty kill won 75% of his face-offs, and we talk a lot about how face-offs are a little overrated. I actually don't think that they're overrated, as they're not as overrated in special team situations. And on the penalty kill, hey, if you can win that draw and clear it out, that's going to go a long way. Now, obviously, you have to be able to meet those conditions, but Derek Grant, I thought, acquitted himself nicely on the penalty kill tonight, which is not something that I ever really thought I'd see coming, just because he still has moments where you just kind of ask yourself, wait, why is he being thrust in these situations? But then you see games like tonight where he's going against one of the league's, maybe the league's best power play right now, and he performed nicely. And that's, I guess, a credit to Dallas Eakins for showing him that trust, but also a credit to Derek Grant. So yeah, I'm talking about face-offs here.
We talking about face-offs?
We're just going to become the face-off calling podcast.
Yeah. So I think outside of it, after you've kind of gone on that, the rest of the game, the Ducks did a good job. The first period was really the worst period of the bunch.
The first 15 minutes, I would say.
The Ducks allowed majority of the expected goals against in that first period at 1.95 in all situations. The rest of the game, they only allowed 1.06 in the following two periods. So they just really allowed a lot of chances against. They cleaned that up. The amount of chances the Ducks got throughout the entire game was pretty even for each period. If you look at expected goals for in all situations, 1.03 in the first, 1.05 in the second, 1.09 in the third. So they were basically they were creating chances at a very similar rate all game long. It's just they cleaned up kind of their own end and not getting hemmed in and not getting us caught by the Buffalo Sabres speed and pressure that they were applying, because the entire first 5-10 minutes of that game, the Sabres had all the chances, and it almost looked like when it was 2-0 that the Sabres might run away with the game.
Yeah, let me ask you this. As we wrap up here and maybe transition to some listener questions before we get out of here, what did you think of the Sabres? I mean, they're kind of the talk of the league to start the year. Any little takeaways there?
I was impressed.
They're a fun team to watch.
They're definitely a fun team. Ralph Kruger has them playing good hockey. I mean, they have a lot of skill, a lot of talent. Rasmus Dahlin looked really good, I thought.
He is. It's early, but he's quickly becoming one of my favorite guys to watch. He is so good with the puck.
Yeah, and I think their power play is just going to get that much more dangerous when you add Brandon Montour to the mix. I mean, Jack Eichel's so good. I mean,
he's very good. On a night where Connor McDavid scored an amazing goal, Jack Eichel definitely kind of reminded everyone, hey, I'm here too.
Sorry.
Remember me?
On the Connor McDavid tangent, do you realize how many points he has this season?
No, I saw someone tweet that he's on pace for 199 points.
He has 17 points in 7 games. He had 5 points tonight.
Man,
hey,
I'm not saying that this is the reason why, but this is the best start to a season that Connor McDavid has had, and it's also the first season in which he's been on a line with James Neal. So
he's not on a line with James Neal, actually.
Well, he has been.
No, he has not actually.
Power
play, sure. Power play, sure.
Played with first time he's played with James Neal.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
McDavid's stupid.
Correlation equals causation.
We also didn't mention Jakob Silfverberg was able to score an empty net goal to end the game.
I did mention that.
Oh, you did?
Thanks for listening, though.
No problem. Yeah. That's what I'm here for. Yeah. Always listen.
All good in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So let's get to some Twitch questions here. So for those of you that are watching the recorded version of this on YouTube, yes, we are on YouTube. You can subscribe to the channel. It helps a lot. Point down, Felix, for YouTube. Point down. You can subscribe and like the channel.
I just do that on purpose.
You can subscribe and like to the channel on YouTube. If you comment there, I'll read the comments. I'll reply. All that different type of good stuff. We also have the recorded version of this, obviously, on all your favorite podcast services, but we do a live stream of this podcast each and every time at twitch.tv/acpod, where you can watch and interact with us live, and you can interact with Twitch chat. Anyone in the Twitch chat right now probably could tell you that it's a really good time to be able to talk about whatever we're talking about, talk about the game with other Ducks fans, have your voice be heard. We'll definitely monitor anything relevant as our conversation is going on.
And emotes.
Yes, and you get, so if you have Amazon Prime, you get one free Twitch Prime membership each and every month. And with that Twitch Prime membership, it really supports the show a lot. And you get a special emote in the chat. I think there's 3 of them right now. I just realized I should create one for Troy Terry. So that may be incoming. You get a special badge next to your name, and it really helps out the show. And you do need to hit that subscribe button. Felix, point up. Felix, up. Hit that subscribe button up there. God damn it. Wrong way. This is what I have to deal with. Every 30 days, but it really does help out a lot. So let's get into some questions from our Twitch chat. And we do have one on Twitter that I want to get to actually also at some point. So we'll get to that one. But STFU Shane asked questions. So is Richie going to be a scratch next game? How long is his leash when he does dumb things like he did?
I would say it's a better than 50% chance. If you consider the fact that Devin Shore was out this game, that Derek Grant played really well, and that the top 3 lines played well. If there's one guy who's going to be scratched, I mean, it's either Rowney or Richie of the forwards. And so, yeah, probably pretty good odds if you're a betting person.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. I could see that happening. There's something.
I mean, they can't keep Devin Shore out every game. That just seems like a waste. And I'm not saying he's this world beater, but come on.
Yeah, I'd say Nick Ritchie probably is going to draw out of the game next time, just simply because I remember what I was going to say. Did you notice the death stare that Dallas Eakins gave him after he took that penalty?
I saw you tweet about that, but I didn't actually see it.
Yeah, after he took that penalty, he was just staring a hole at the penalty box.
Yeah, I would not want to receive a death stare from Dallas Eakins. He's got a very expressive glare, and I just wouldn't want that directed at me.
Yeah,
seems less than ideal.
So we have this question. The Mo Morg asks, are we becoming a slow start team? Seems like we've had some first period struggles.
What do you think?
It's a bit concerning. I think that it's getting close to being a trend. I want to see a couple more games before I'm fully able to say it's a trend. But I think it's starting to creep into the back of my head at the start of every game.
I don't know. My opinion on this kind of stuff is that every team has weird trends like this. Like
Sure.
For a while, the Ducks were a bad second period team. Now they're a bad first period team. So I don't know. Lame answer. Sorry.
Wow.
I am lame. It's okay.
Just no selling stuff. Not giving good answers. God.
Sorry.
Joshua's data asks, question, the announcers talked face-offs a lot tonight. Do the face-offs won equate to the higher score, Felix?
Honestly, if you look at the fact, I mean, I'm not saying that this is the reason why it happened.
Don't do it.
But the Ducks did score more goals, and they also did win more faceoffs. I don't know.
Don't feed the fire.
Just putting two and two together here.
Question? Why did I ask that question?
No, I mean we've honestly at this point, just in the interest of time, if you want to hear our kind of overall thoughts on the value of faceoffs, go back to the last couple episodes towards the end when we're getting into these listener questions. But I don't think that's the reason they won tonight.
Yeah, Bren, your friend asked, question, what do you think Aikens is telling them after the first period? Do you see him making any adjustments or just telling the boys to crank up the intensity?
I get the impression that Dallas Aikens wouldn't be the kind of coach to deliver, and this might be true for a lot of NHL coaches, but isn't really delivering really nuanced, I guess directions between periods. Because guys are so intense. Guys are so caught up in the emotion of the game that you don't want to really tell them too much. So he's probably just coming in there saying, "Hey, keep it going," because they had a decent second period. So I don't think there's really a whole lot to say after that. It's just coming in and saying, "Hey, just keep the foot on the gas." I would imagine it was probably a pretty simple message.
Yeah, and then our good buddy Georgie Khan asked, should I be mad at... Oh, nope, never mind. This was not a real question. George got me. He tricked me.
Okay.
Bob Shockey asks, was second period a record for penalties and fights? I don't know, but what did you think about the scrappiness of that second period?
Well, the Ducks do have a long-standing rivalry with the Buffalo Sabres. I mean, they almost faced each other in the Cup final in 2007.
Almost?
So there's, that's almost as basically, it's almost as if they did play. They're still bitter about that. Ryan Miller was on the Sabres at that time. So clearly there's some I don't know. I have no idea. I just think that sometimes games get a little unhinged. Especially when you have guys like Josh Manson, Nick Ritchie in the fold. They're tough customers, and that's just kind of what happens. I mean, especially when there's a bit of a questionable hit by Carter Rowney, you're always going to see teams react like they did tonight. So I guess it's surprising if you're looking at the jerseys that both teams are wearing. They're not playing in the same conference. They play each other twice a year, so it's not what you'd expect. But I think the way the game was going, knowing who's on both, the guys that are on both teams, it's not too surprising. Max Comtois, by the way, we forget, he's a bit of a scrappy guy himself. Got into a couple little altercations. So, it was that definitely made the game a lot more interesting. I mean, we talk a lot about the skill of the game, and that's the reason we watch for the goals. And I mean, of course I believe in all of that, but a little physical hockey, a little chippiness, it never hurt anyone either. Well, it never hurt the spectators, at least.
Yeah. Let's get to this question from CMonkey001. Is the reason why the Ducks have had a slow start is that they're analyzing the way the other team is playing so they adjust and play better? I don't know if I buy that fully. I think there is maybe a little bit of a feeling process out there, but I don't think they're necessarily coming out of the gate slow because of that.
No, I actually think that it's internal. I think that they're still struggling to kind of find their own rhythm, find their, just remember where they're supposed to be, right? Because they're still implementing a newer system. They're still building on something that maybe started a little bit at the end of last year, and now under a new coach, just taking that to another level. So I think it's more internal than anything, because if it's happening every game, it's then probably not actually about the other team. I think it's more of an internal thing.
Yeah. Let's end with this important Twitch question, then we'll get to the Twitter question that we have. Stevie D asked, important question, Jake and Felix, favorite professional wrestler?
I don't watch wrestling, so but I think so. I don't really have a favorite one, but isn't there like a French Canadian wrestler? Or am I just totally out to lunch on that?
Probably. I can't think of one right now. Sami Zayn's from Montreal. Kevin Owens is from Montreal. Kevin Owens is good.
There's a guy from back in the day that I think you're just forgetting. Oh. But no, I don't have a favorite wrestler.
Maybe. My favorite
MMA fighter, George St. Pierre. Though.
Okay, there you go.
Got to go GSP.
There you go. Current favorite wrestler, probably MJF, just because his promos are the best and completely ridiculous and great. In-ring workers, the Young Bucks are so much fun. WWE has really turned me off of late. Go AEW. Hot take right there.
Jay, honestly, I enjoy listening to Jake talk about wrestling only because
it's very nerdy.
It's so much passion dedicated to something that's like not
it's like
even
a play.
close to real.
It's like a play.
Yeah, it's like if you're someone who in the 16th century went to Shakespeare plays and had these really deeply held opinions about each play and how it was going, and that's basically what this is. And I find that I appreciate that, even though I kind of laugh at it. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Also, El Miko brings up a very good one. The Hardy Boys back in their prime were the best. So there we go. Oh, that's a good one. Joshua's data said that's what my ranking should be. Wrestlers.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you would definitely have a good comment on that, wouldn't you?
I mean, I wouldn't really.
All right, so let's get to this question from our good friend Kestrel Scott, fellow teammate on the Anaheim Calling Beer League team. We're not going to talk about our game from Sunday. # AC Pod. Who do you guys reckon will represent the Ducks at the All-Star game?
At this rate?
Yeah.
My bet would be Gibson and Rakell.
Yeah, probably.
Boring answer, but probably the most likely.
Yep. So that's going to do it for questions.
Maybe Silfverberg.
Maybe Troy Terry. Wow. The no-sell.
I'm not ready for Troy Terry All-Star yet.
Leaving me hanging.
I don't think we're there yet. Sorry.
But what if it happens?
I mean, hey, it may. Okay, let's get out of here. Thanks everyone for listening tonight. A couple different ways that you can support our show if you've been enjoying what you're listening to here. We are trying to grow our Patreon page where we offer you additional content. So as you can see, if you're a newer listener and you've started listening this season, we put out a lot of episodes a week, usually 3 to 5 episodes a week. And so we also do offer additional content through our Patreon page. That's at patreon.com/ACPod. So for a $1 contribution a month, a $1 pledge, you get access to our Discord chat, our patrons only chat. And that is where you can interact directly with us. So when news are breaking, we can just go back and forth. And, we're a little more laid back in that chat. It's not like on the pod where we got to be a little more official. So there's a lot more kind of banter that goes on. It's a lot of fun. Definitely recommend it. So that's at the $1 tier. For $5 a month, though, you not only get access to the chat that we just talked about, but you also get access to 2 bonus episodes a month. And if you're a $5 patron, then you also get to recommend episode topics in that chat. So that's 2 bonus episodes a month where we talk about different league-wide topics, random topics, just kind of all over the map, but they're a lot of fun. And I think that for $5 a month, if you enjoy what we do here, then I think it's a no-brainer for you. But we are trying to grow the page even further and give you more ways to not only support it, but also to benefit from it. So, Jake, why don't you kind of lay out what we're doing here with our Patreon drive for the month of October?
Yep. So for our Patreon drive, we will be giving, we have some different stretch goals. At $350 a month, we'll host a Patreon exclusive watch party with pictures of beer hours on us. This is, if we hit this in October, all October patrons will be invited, including all patrons at the time of the watch party. So if you want to just jump on and support the show, help us reach this goal in the month of October, and then
we're halfway through.
Yeah, and then jump off because you can't financially do it for more than that. That's completely fine. You can still come to the watch party. You'll still get that pitcher of beer, and you will still get the benefits of that watch party.
And you get to talk about wrestling with Jake.
Yes, and also for those of you that are current patrons, feel free if you want to just for this month up that Patreon pledge for this month, and then you can end up helping us reach that goal. And if you want to drop it back down to $5, the $5 is the minimum amount to get the bonus episodes. At $500 a month, we will host a live Patreon exclusive show. So we will do a Patreon exclusive live show. At $750 a month, we will be adding another bonus episode a month. So if we hit this one and continue to stay above $750, we will be giving you 3 bonus episodes a month as compared to 2. And so your same $5 a month will get you 3 as compared to 2. At $1,000 a month, we're going to host a watch party with a live post-game show following that. And then at $1,500, we're going to get 4 bonus episodes a month. So some really lofty stretch goals there. We're almost hitting that first one. We're about $53 away from hitting that first watch party. So if you have any friends out there you think would like this, well, give them that little nudge this month. Then they'll be able to come to the watch party. You'll be able to have them there with you. We'll all be able to watch together and have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, if 5 to 10 of our patrons each get one friend, do the math. We'll get there. I really want this watch party to happen. It's going to be a lot of fun. Who doesn't like watching hockey with friends and beer? I mean, it's kind of, I don't know, sounds like an objectively good time to me. But of course, you don't have to commit any financial resources to support our show. One easy way to support the show that's completely free to you, and especially if you're an Apple user, leave a review on Apple Podcasts. This is a great way for the show to get noticed, for the show to be more visible on Apple Podcasts. When people are searching Anaheim Ducks or hockey, we want obviously more people to know about the show. And so if you leave a review, I mean, it takes, 1 to 5 minutes of your time, depending how eloquent you would like to be. And it's, once you do it, then you're done forever and it lasts forever. So that's just search Anaheim Calling or search Anaheim Ducks in Apple Podcasts and you can leave a review. It's really easy and it's free. And a couple other ways that you can support the show. Also make sure that if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts to subscribe. That way you don't have to, I don't know how many people listen to a podcast and also don't subscribe, but make sure that you subscribe. You can also listen to us on YouTube, on Stitcher, and on Spotify. Make sure to check out AnaheimCalling.com. That's our home base. Also at Anaheim Calling on Twitter. Jake is on Twitter at RandyOrGames91, where he is posting his weekly rankings, which should be out soon. I am on Twitter at Felix_Sicard. And I have Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that I did want to give a shout out. Sorry, I completely spaced on doing this earlier, but we have a new patron, and as we've been doing of late, we've been giving a shout out. So Matthew Tate, thank you so much. New patron. On top of that, new Twitch subs. Within, from what I'm seeing, we got CH Breaker subscribed to the show for the first time. Varluna resub for 10 months in a row. So thank you so much, Varluna. Really great follower of the show, great friend of the show. Georgie Khan also resubbed for 9 straight months. So thank you so much, everyone, for doing that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. None of this is really possible to the degree that it is without the support of our loyal listeners. So we really do appreciate it. So that will do it, guys, for tonight's show. Thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you at the next podcast. The Ducks do play a game on Friday because Jake is choosing his social life over the podcast. We are going to do that on Saturday.
I am in a good friend's wedding. Sorry, folks.
So we will talk to you then.
Bye.